Preventing sexual harassment at work. Sexual harassment in the workplace is against the law. Our work environment will be one in which all individuals are treated with dignity and respect. Each employee has the right to work in a professional atmosphere that promotes equal employment opportunity. The Arc of Cape County will maintain an environment in which employees and others are not subjected to different treatment because of legally protected characteristics. We will not tolerate any discrimination against or harassment of employees, people we support, or any outside service vendors. It's a violation of federal law, Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, as amended in 1991, for any employee of this agency to engage in sexual harassment of another employee. This law protects an employee from this type of conduct. Unwelcome sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, and other verbal or physical conduct of a sexual nature constitutes sexual harassment when this conduct affects a person's employment. Sexual harassment also applies to behavior of a sexual nature by a coworker or supervisor that creates an intimidating or hostile work environment. If the behavior unreasonably interferes with a person's work performance, it's sexual harassment. The definition of a sexual advance is: sexual advances are gestures made towards another person with the aim of gaining some sort of sexual favor or gratification. A sexual advance can also mean trying to pressure or entice someone into a sexual act. Some examples of sexual harassment are: a person is not hired if they won't submit to the sexual advance. If not submitting to the advance means that they will not receive a promotion or raise as promised, as well as any other decisions regarding their employment. Sexual harassment also applies to behavior of a sexual nature by a coworker or supervisor that creates an intimidating or hostile work environment. If the behavior unreasonably interferes with a person's work performance, it is sexual harassment. For example, when a person turns down a transfer or promotion because it will put them or keep them in contact with a person doing the harassment. There are two kinds of sexual harassment: quid pro quo and hostile work environment. Next, we will watch a video about these.
The law defines sexual harassment as unwelcome verbal, visual, or physical conduct of a sexual nature that is severe or pervasive and affects working conditions or creates a hostile work environment. Conduct of a sexual nature is broken into three parts: verbal, visual, and physical. Verbal includes comments about clothing, a person's body, sexual or gender-based jokes or remarks, requesting sexual favors or repeatedly asking a person out, sexual innuendos, threats, spreading rumors about a person's personal or sexual life, or foul and obscene language. Visual includes posters, drawings, pictures, screensavers, cartoons, emails, or text of a sexual nature. Physical includes assault, impeding or blocking movement, inappropriate touching such as kissing, hugging, patting, stroking, or rubbing, sexual gesturing, or even leering or staring. There are two categories of sexual harassment. The first is quid pro quo, which literally means this for that. It occurs when a boss uses job rewards such as raises or promotions or punishment such as demotions or firing to force employees into a sexual relationship or sexual act. The second is hostile environment, which is defined as conduct that unreasonably interferes with work performance or creates an intimidating, hostile, or offensive work environment. For example, it may be sexual harassment if repeated sexual comments make someone so uncomfortable that their work performance suffers, or they decline professional opportunities because it will put them in contact with the harasser. In both types of harassment, employees must prove that the conduct was offensive to someone, not necessarily the intended victim of the harassment. Here is an example. Say a male employee tells a dirty joke to a female coworker. She thinks it's funny, but a second woman passing by finds it offensive. That joke could contribute to a hostile environment claim simply because someone finds it offensive.
Behaviors may include, but are not limited to, unwanted sexual advances, sexual jokes or innuendos, display or circulation of sexually suggestive jokes, pictures, or graffiti. This includes emails and SCOMs. Unwanted and unnecessary physical contact. Repeatedly asking an employee for a date after they have indicated that they are not interested. This slide shows the two categories of sexual harassment. Offering benefits in exchange for a sexual favor constitutes quid pro quo. Unwanted sexual advancements towards someone, threats or retaliation towards someone when they say no, visual conduct which includes suggestive gestures, verbal conduct which includes derogatory comments about a person's look or their body, etc., up to including physical conduct when someone actually puts their hands on another employee in a sexual way. All these are considered to be creating a hostile work environment for that employee. Remember that sexual harassment is against the law. The law protects employees when that harassment is based on any of the following characteristics listed here: race, color, national origin, ancestry, religion, gender identity or gender expression, age, mental or physical disability including HIV or AIDS, family and medical care leave status, pregnancy, status as a victim of domestic violence, sexual violence, or stalking, sexual orientation. How can you prevent sexual harassment? First, know that you have the right to work in an environment that is free from harassment and discrimination based on sex. Remember to be prepared to stand up for your rights. Always conduct yourself in a professional manner and dress appropriately for the job. Make sure to review and understand the policies here at the ARC of Cape May County. The ARC of Cape May County encourages employees to report any and all incidents of discrimination, harassment, or retaliation, regardless of who the offender is. The report must be made verbally and in writing. Early reporting by the employee and intervention by the employer is the most effective method of resolving actual or perceived incidents. Employees may report any incident to their supervisor before the conduct becomes severe or pervasive. Supervisors are required to report any knowledge of actual or perceived incidents. If you are unable to report this to your supervisor, you can report the harassment to the Human Resources Department. If you do not report a known instance of sexual harassment, you may be held liable according to New Jersey civil law. It is best to try to remain calm and professional if someone harasses you. You must be direct and candid with that person the very first time that they make you feel uncomfortable or fearful. The ARC of Cape May County is committed to responding quickly and effectively to any report of harassment. Allegations will be investigated promptly, thoroughly, and impartially, and in a manner that provides all parties appropriate due process and reaches reasonable conclusions. The ARC will endeavor to maintain discretion and confidentiality throughout the investigatory process to the fullest extent possible. False accusations of discrimination, harassment, or retaliation can cause serious harm to innocent persons. If an investigation results in finding the complainant knowingly or because of malice falsely accused another person, the complainant will be subject to disciplinary action up to and including termination. The ARC of Cape May County prohibits retaliation against any person who reports sexual discrimination or harassment. Retaliation is also prohibited against anyone who participates in an investigation of such reports. The ARC will not retaliate against any employee who has made a good faith report of perceived sexual discrimination or harassment. Also, the ARC of Cape May County will not permit any other employee to retaliate, even if the complaint is ultimately found to be unsupported. Retaliation is a serious violation, and anyone who feels that they have been subjected to an act of retaliation should immediately report it to their supervisor or human resources. What would you do in the following scenario? Shortly after I started work at the agency, I became the victim of sexual harassment by a supervisor. Over time, I managed to put a stop to the harassment. I have now learned that the supervisor has targeted other people, all subordinates. At least one has resigned. I suspect that the supervisor is targeting another new person who was recently hired, although I have no proof. In both situations, this is sexual harassment that should be reported. The first victim should report the harassment that happened to them by the supervisor. The first victim also has a responsibility to report their suspicions of harassment towards the new employee to the appropriate personnel. It is not your job to investigate on your own when it comes to sexual harassment. You should report suspicions immediately so that the matter can be addressed quickly and professionally. The supervisor in that scenario was not only a risk to the staff of the agency, but also to the agency itself, which has a legal responsibility to protect all employees from harassment. The ARC of Cape May County's harassment policy can be found on the database dashboard on the Policies tab. If you have any questions, you can speak with your program supervisor or anyone in the Human Resources Department. Thank you for watching. Please click the X at the top right corner to exit this presentation. You will then need to click on Sexual Harassment Prevention Training again to have access to the post-test. Please make sure to complete the post-test to receive credit for completing the course. As with all tests, you must get an 80 or above to pass. If you are having difficulties, please contact the training department.